There is a saying that has now formed part of our idiomatic expressions. When we feel that someone has an inflated ego or a high sense of importance about himself, we tell him he feels is the next best thing since sliced bread. But what some of us fail to understand is that the concept of sliced bread was once a small idea that made big impact in the way that we even consume bread today. We'll come back to the small idea of sliced bread shortly. Now, generally, most times we come to the conclusion that in order for you to make a big impact in your world, you always have to have those big and massive ideas. So we look at some of the established companies like ExxonMobil, Chevron, Texaco, even look at the likes of ShopRite that exist in Nigeria, and we tell ourselves that in order for you to make impact in your world, you need to have that big idea. But it may surprise you that that may not always be the case. I'll give you an example, and this is something that we use every day now globally. The piggy bank was once a small idea. In the 15th century, what you describe as a piggy bank now was spelled as POG, right? It was spelled as P-Y-G-G, but that was pronounced as POG. POG was something that was created as a clay pot where you could save money in. Now, the reason why people were even using clay pots was because it was very expensive using something else. And clay, under the Saxon language, was pronounced as POG. Now, people were saving in those POGs, and then later, Y now changed to no longer be pronounced as U, but was now pronounced as Y, thereby changing the name from POG to pig. And then people were using it to save money, to save little denominations. And then gradually, when the name changed from POG to pig, it then meant that people jokingly or mockingly would refer to the piggy bank no longer as POG, but as a pig. And then people now got creative around it and started making the piggy banks resemble pigs. Fast forward to the 20th century. For some of us, like me, for instance, that grew up in Lagos, I had a piggy bank. My mother had one made for me. And at that time, you could buy the bottle of Coke for maybe 2 naira, 5 naira coins. And if you carried out an errand, they would give you coins. You would save your coins in your piggy bank. And a couple of months down the line, you would break that piggy bank and take out your coins. Now, the piggy bank was a very innovative concept at that time, and we did it for what it was. In December 31st, 2015, there were a few fresh graduates who went on Twitter and saw a young lady break her piggy bank. A lot of people watched on Twitter and saw what she did. She had been saving 1,000 naira every single day of the year, and at the end of the year, broke her piggy bank and took out that money she had saved. Some people mocked her. They said, "Why are you disturbing us with all of this?" Some people praised her. But there were some young graduates who saw this, and something dropped within their mind, that even though this small idea of having a piggy bank exists everywhere, we can actually make money out of this. We can create a business out of this. We can create value out of this concept. And the idea for PiggyVest was birthed by reason of that. The founders of PiggyVest saw this simple idea and felt that they could create money out of it. And then they set up PiggyVest, which allowed people to save small denominations over a 3-month period and then get interest out of it from that period. Simple idea. Today, PiggyVest is valued at probably over $500 million US and is heading towards unicorn status. Now, everybody understood what it meant to have a piggy bank, but very few people could understand that having that small idea could make something that would have such a large impact, employing thousands of people in Nigeria, looking to expand beyond the shores of Nigeria. It shows that if you have value that is created with your small idea, you will always succeed. But let's move away from the business world, and let's also consider what you can do from your day-to-day habits. Mr. Guys, who wrote the book Mini Habits, Small Habits, Big Impact, gave an example. He always wanted to exercise, but always found it very difficult. He would get to the gym and carry so much weight, and after one day, he would get so tired. But then he told himself, how about I just try doing one push-up every day? And he started from one push-up. But as you would agree, having a mini habit like doing one push-up would not be sufficient. So he started doing one push-up, one pull-up, two push-ups, two pull-up. And before he knew what was happening, by consistently taking those mini habits, he was able to do much more than even just doing one push-up or one pull-up. Now, gradually that habit became a lifestyle. And the idea behind that is that you can actually have those small habits, those small ideas that can end up becoming very big. And think of the fact that he made a bestseller out of just that small idea from his own mini habit that he created by himself. Think about trying to read books. These days, everybody says, I want to read 12 books in a year. I want to read 50 books in a year. And then they get started, and after day one, day two, it's all over. Think of your New Year resolutions. But now, imagine if you broke that into bite sizes and you had a smaller idea around it. How about I read one page a day? In a month, you have about 30 days roughly. And your typical average book is probably about 150 to 200 pages. So then that means that even if you were trying to do just one page a day, you would finish one book in a 5-month period. You could finish 2 books in a 10-month period. How about using your mini habit method? You now made it, instead of just 1 page, 5 pages. That would mean that in a 30-day month, you would have then covered 150 pages. And then multiply that by 12 months, you'd have probably covered about 12 books, rather than trying to stack everything at once. Small ideas, big impact. Imagine the amount of knowledge you would have taken within yourself by just breaking those things down to bite sizes. But let's now come back to the small idea of sliced bread. Some of us may think that it had always existed. However, sliced bread actually came about in the early 20th century. At that time, if you had bread, you had to break them by yourself and eat it just the way that it was. The inventor of sliced bread, however, came up with the concept and created a slicing machine. He found it impossible being able to sell that slicing machine because nobody could understand why anybody would want to slice bread. However, he was finally able to find someone who took up the idea of buying his machine. It may shock you to understand that within the first 2 weeks of the launch of that machine, they sold over 2,000 machines, and sliced bread became a global phenomenon. As a matter of fact, during the Second World War, because the United States was seeking to restrict the sale of commodities that would affect the market, it banned sliced bread. And the New York Times set up a post-ed that said sliced bread was crucial to the survival of the United States. And cast your mind that just a few years before then, people thought that there was no need for that machine, but now people were considering it a lifesaver. Small idea of sliced bread, big impact. As you leave this TEDx talk, I want you to always understand something. You may seem to have a little idea, probably something that people have laughed at along the way. Don't always think that that's a bad sign. Who knows? You just may be the next thing after sliced bread. Thank you.